just make sure you're on mute while you're doing that. So it's loading right now. All right. So let's see, I just am going to test and make sure that we are live, and we are. So officially, everyone who is watching, we are about to present Jane Eyre. I'm going to tell some people about the charity, you all about the charity before we start. And just briefly, I'm going to go on live so you guys know that I'm here too. So we have some Acting for a Cause fans now, which is crazy. Some people who are fans of the series. Let me just quickly go here and then go to live, and we're going to get started. All right. Are we good? Are we good? I am going to go ahead and start talking about the charity. Everyone who is watching right now, thank you so much for being here. Wow, there's so many of you. 702 likes on our play already, and we haven't even seen it. That's a record breaker right there, I'm pretty sure. Speaking of record breaking, our last read was of Pride and Prejudice, also adapted by Christina Calvin. And Pride and Prejudice broke all records for viewership and for money fundraised for our cause. Thank you all so much, so much for doing that. It's incredible how people are following the series. And the most important part of our series is the fact that we are doing these play reads for charity. So I'm going to tell you all about the charities themselves. The first charity that we are supporting is the EIF, the Entertainment Industry Foundation. What is the EIF? It's an amazing foundation that was actually founded by the Warner Brothers and other famous movers and shakers in the golden age of Hollywood, with one kind of common goal in mind. They realized that everyone wanted to do some activism and make a difference. And what I realize is so special is it really ties into our current idea of what it means to be a star today. We want to be more than just an artist and an actor. We want to change the world. And so the EIF, in partnership with us, is supporting arts education. Arts education means not just coming in and doing a program in a low-income community once in a while. It means consistent arts education from ages 3, 4, 5 years old, all the way through high school, something that made a difference for a lot of us who are artists today. The EIF is also, as part of our agreement, has so generously decided to donate 50% of our earnings to Mount Sinai Hospital in Chicago. Mount Sinai Hospital is working on the front lines, so very important to not just focus on arts education, which is very important. We'll be losing funding during this time, but also more immediate needs. And what's so special about Mount Sinai Hospital is it works specifically in low-income areas, and over 75% of reported cases of the COVID-19 pandemic are from low-income areas. This means that you know, a lot of cases that are not in existence are, or not being articulate here. A lot of people who are from these low-income areas aren't necessarily reporting. It could be a number closer to 90% or 95%. There we go. And so when we donate money to them, we might be donating to a father of 4, a single father who supports his family and is sick with COVID-19 and doesn't know where his next meal is coming from. And this money is supporting that family. So thank you so much, so much for donating when you do. Actingforacause.org, actingforacause.org, actingforacause.org. Thank you. Without further ado, we will go ahead and start with the live read of Jane Eyre. So if everyone, is all of our cast ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do this. All right. So let me go ahead and pull this up. All right, and so we begin Jane Eyre, Act 1. It is night in the middle of a violent storm. Lights up on Jane, who is drawing in the Thornfield drawing room. The curtains are drawn and we see a row of windows behind her. The barely perceptible sound of whispers comes up underneath.
I'll tell you what it is. First, I must premise it's nothing wonderful. A portrait of a young girl, merely. The face is pale, the cheeks sunken, but her eyes. Her eyes have a beauty, I think, of movement, of meaning, of radiance. Her gaze is fixed on the floor, gone down into her heart. She is looking at what she can remember, not at what is really present.
Another crash of thunder and a gust of wind which blows the candle out. As Jane relights the candle, Helen is in the room, whispering voices very low.
Have you come to say goodbye to me, Jane? Your little feet are bare. You are cold. Let me warm you. I brought you your doll, Jane. I know you can't sleep without it.
Jane takes the doll.
That doll. How I doted on it, half fancying it alive.
I know you can't sleep without it.
Human beings must love something, I suppose, in the absence of worthier objects.
Aunt Reed and Brocklehurst, as spirits emerge, they are not in the scene with Jane.
Jane Eyre, until you acquire a more attractive manner, I really must exclude you from privileges intended only for happy children.
This child is a liar.
You think too much of the love of human beings, Jane.
I really must exclude you from privileges intended only for happy children.
This child is a liar.
You think too much of the love of human beings, Jane.
I really must exclude you.
Aunt Reed, let me go.
Jane Eyre, I had more trouble with that child than anyone could imagine. A tiresome, passionate little girl, always looking as if she were watching everyone and scheming plots.
Aunt Reed.
She struck my son John, my very own little boy, all because she said he threw a book at her. He never did such a thing. A little liar.
It was not a lie.
How dared she? How dared she? I will lock her in the Red Room.
Oh, Aunt, have mercy. My uncle died there.
I will lock her in the Red Room.
Aunt Reed, have pity, a ghost will come. I shall be killed if...
Silence. These histrionics will not avail you. I abhor deceit, especially children.
Oh, let me go, let me go.
Look at yourself. This passion is repulsive.
Why did they send me so far and so lonely? Up where the moors spread and...
My Uncle Reed is in heaven and can see all you do, and so can Mum and Papa. They know how you look to me in the Red Room and how you wish me dead.
What?
I will never call you aunt again as long as I live. And if anyone asks me about you, Mrs. Reed, I shall say the very thought of you makes me sick.
Jane, it is my duty to correct your faults. You are too passionate. It is not normal. It is not proper. It is deceitful, Jane.
I do not lie. I've never lied.
Enters Brocklehurst.
This child is a liar.
Why did they send me so far and so lonely?
Mr. Brocklehurst.
Up where these moors spread and grey rocks are piled.
This is the child I desire to be received at Lowood School.
Men are hard-hearted and kind angels only. Watch where the steps of the poor orphan child.
Well, Jane Eyre, are you a good girl?
Perhaps the less said on that subject, the better, Mr. Brocklehurst. She is an accomplished little actress, if truth be told, always making up stories.
No sight so sad as that of a naughty child, especially a naughty little girl. Jane Eyre, do you know where the wicked go after death? Jane? Jane? You there, Jane? We might have lost Jane.
We might have lost Jane. We're going to take a brief pause for the technical issue.
Good old Jane has gone missing again. Don't worry. This is what the play is about.
This is an opportunity to everyone watching to go to actingforacause.org. This is our cold open. Just remember, you are supporting families affected by COVID-19. If you go to actingforacause.org and click the menu and click donate, the menu is in the upper right-hand corner. It's kind of an interesting format. So you go to actingforacause.org, upper right-hand corner, there's a few lines like a menu, and you click on it and you will be good and set. Let me, in the meantime, briefly check on this technical issue and see if there's an easy way to get back on. We will pause momentarily.
The spirit took Jane. The spirits took her away. There is no way now. It's all good.
Oh, Brocklehurst.
I know. My job here is done, and I did it very well. Yes. Yes. Good on Natalia. I will take off my hat and I will become Rudy.
Boss Jane.
Thank you to everybody who's watching, by the way.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Hey, you're good. Is it easy for you to get back on? I can readmit you. Connection? Yeah, you're good. We're all here. 1 second, I'll put you on speaker. This is Natalia. She's calling.
Hi, Natalia.
Trying to find better. It was actually a connection issue that brought her off.
Oh dear.
Don't worry, we're all here with you, Jane. We're the spirits of your past.
Jane, where are you?
The show must go on. This is good.
What are we doing here? We're waiting for a
No,
reconnect.
he's coming. You are being admitted.
Yay.
Here we are.
All right, welcome back.
All right.
Let's pick up from that cue. And
Absolutely.
do we feel like that's a good idea?
Yeah.
Natalia, we are going to pick up, Jane, we are going to pick up from the cue. Let's actually start from top of page 12 on to read. Perhaps
All right.
on the subject.
Perhaps the less said on the subject, the better, Mr. Brocklehurst.
Yes.
She is an accomplished little actress, if truth be told, always making up stories.
There's no sight so sad as that of a naughty child,
Mm.
especially a naughty little girl. Jane Eyre, do you know where the wicked go after death?
They go to hell,
Ah, and where is that? Where is hell?
full of fire.
Ah, what must you do to avoid it?
I must keep good health and not die.
How can you keep in good health? Children younger than you die daily.
I brought you your doll, Jane. I know you can't sleep without it.
I should be glad if the teachers were requested to keep a strict eye on her, Mr. Brocklehurst, to guard against her worst fault, a tendency to deceit.
She shall be watched, Miss Rudy. She shall be watched. Teachers and students, do you see this girl? Jane Eyre, you see that she possesses the ordinary form of childhood, but it is her duty to warn you. Be on guard against her. Avoid her company, shut her out from your converse. For this child, my tongue falters while I tell it. This child is a liar.
Jane sinks to the ground and Helen is revealed.
Have you come to say goodbye to me, Jane? Your little feet are bare. You are cold. Let me warm you. Here is your doll. I know you can't sleep without it.
Helen, why are you friends with a girl whom everyone at Lowood School hates?
You think too much of the love of human beings, Jane.
If others don't love me, I would rather die than live.
This passion is repulsive.
If your own conscience approved you, you would not be without friends. Remember when I leave you.
Where are you going, Helen? Are you leaving Lowood?
You must not grieve. I could never make my way very well in the world. I should have been continually at fault.
But you are so good.
I am careless. I forget rules. I seldom put and never keep things in order.
But where are you going, Helen? Can you see?
I'm going to God.
What is God? Where is God?
There is an invisible world and a kingdom of spirits. And that world is around us, and those spirits watch us.
They think I can do without one bit of love or kindness.
This passion is repulsive.
There will come a time when you throw off these mortal passions.
They think I have no feelings.
Do not despair, for life is soon over.
This child is a liar.
And death is so certain an entrance to
I
happiness.
cannot live so.
We're arrested by a strange laugh. We see a silhouette reminiscent of spirits and enters Mrs. Fairfax. The spirits sink back. We're in reality.
Miss Eyre? Miss Eyre?
Mrs. Fairfax.
Oh, Miss Eyre, thank goodness. I've been looking for you all over this house. I was afraid some accident had befallen you. Why, my dear, you look pale. What have you been doing in this cold, out-of-the-way room? No one ever comes here. Did you know that? You should have come sit by me by the fire in the kitchen. Oh, you've been drawing. Gracious, how pretty. But look at all this dust. An inch thick, I dare say. Leah has not been attending to her duties. Oh, my dear, you must be chilled through and through. Come away from this cold room. The nursery's in an uproar. Adele declares she will not go to bed until she's had a kiss from you good night. Or at least that's what I think she said. Une Bastia, she wanted for her governess or some such thing. Oh, goodness knows what she's saying when she prattles away in the French fashion of hers.
I will go at once.
Gracious. Oh, I had no idea this room was so disordered. I don't know what Mr. Rochester would say.
Mr. Rochester, as you expected. You did not say so earlier.
Oh, no, my dear. But the truth is, he is always unexpected. So I do like to be ready for him at all times. Thornville is a pretty place, but I fear we'll be getting out of order unless he comes and takes it into his own hands and comes and resides here permanently, or at least visits rather oftener. Great houses and fairgrounds require the presence of a proprietor.
Yes.
Not to say Mr. Rochester isn't a master better than most, but you will meet him one day, Miss Eyre, and I'm sure you will agree with me. Some do call him peculiar, but I've never thought of him so. It is true you cannot always tell if he's in jest or earnest, but that's of no consequence. He is a very, very good master. But, dear me, I'm going on. What a rattle I must sing to you, Miss Eyre. You who are always so good and quiet. And a great comfort to Adele and me, I assure you. Come, my dear. Let's go to your pupil. Grace! Did I not tell you before? Too much noise, Grace. Remember directions.
Yes, Mum.
Is it Grace Poole who laughs in that strange way?
Yes. She and Leah are so noisy together. I'm sure you've often heard them. Well, pay it no heed. Least said, soonest mended, I always say. I shall leave you to go with Adele then, Miss Eyre. Miss Eyre? Sleep well.
She exits and enter the spirits' memories of the past. We're set to transition for Rochester's entrance.
Sleep well.
Sleep well.
Sleep well.
I do sleep well. October, November, December pass away. I do sleep well. Picture, if you will, a fine old manor home, a pretty child, a kindly housekeeper, the promise of a smooth career. But though I value Mrs. Fairfax's kindness and Adele's affection, oh, it is vain to say that human beings ought to be satisfied with tranquility. They must have action.
passion is repulsive.
Women are supposed to be calm, but women feel just as much as men feel. The restlessness is in my nature. It agitates me to pain sometimes, and so I walk. I leave Thornfield and I walk.
I walk.
I walk.
Ground is hard. The air is still. My road is lonely.
Until you acquire a more attractive manner, I really must exclude you.
I walk, opening my inward ear to a tale that never ends. A tale my imagination narrates continuously.
This child is a liar.
A tale I quicken with all the fire and feeling that I desire and have not in my actual existence.
What is that noise?
I hear a noise.
What is that sound?
I remember stories told to me in my youth of the Gytrash, the spirit that haunted solitary roads.
What is that noise?
It was very near, but not yet in sight.
Rochester falls unexpectedly through the curtains from down right, dispersing the spirits, and there's a crescendo of sound.
What the devil?
Are you injured, sir? Can I do anything?
You may stand to one side. I shall do. I shall do.
I cannot think of leaving you in this solitary lane until I see you are fit to mount your horse.
I should think that you ought to be at home yourself. Where do you come from?
Just below.
What? You mean that house with the battlements?
Yes, sir.
Whose house is it?
Mr. Rochester's.
And do you know Mr. Rochester?
I've never seen him.
Well, you are not a servant of the hall, of course. You are?
I'm the governess, sir.
Deuce, take me if I had not forgotten. The governess, come here. Excuse me, necessity compels me to make you useful. Wait, hand me my whip. There, under the hedge. Now I shall do. I advise you to return home as fast as you can.
He exits, and there's a transition. Enters Mrs. Fairfax, out of breath.
Oh, Miss Eyre, where have you been? The master, Mr. Rochester, has just arrived.
Indeed.
He is in the dining room, and I'm off to find John to get this urgent. A most unlucky thing. Mr. Rochester's horse fell, and his ankle is sprained. Oh, and he wishes to see you for tea tonight.
In the hay lane?
What?
Did the horse fall in the hay lane?
Yes, it slipped on ice. Oh, John! John!
There's a transition and enters Rochester and Adele.
Vous aimez la nouvelle robe, Monsieur Rochester? Oh, je l'adore, ciel, regardez-moi.
Yes, you're very pretty. You genuine daughter of Paris. Now let your raptures be conducted in silence. Tiens-toi un enfant comprends-tu?
Here is Miss Eyre, sir. I hope, Mr. Rochester, that your day hasn't been too tedious indeed, with all of the business you've seen and the injury. Besides, I marvel at your patience getting through it all, and...
I should like some tea.
Miss Eyre, would you hand Mr. Rochester his tea? Adele might perhaps spill it.
Mais pas monsieur. Qu'il y a un cadeau pour Mademoiselle Eyre dans votre petite coffre?
Oh, who talks of cadeau? Did you expect a present, Miss Eyre? Are you fond of presents?
I have little experience with them. They are generally thought pleasant things.
Generally thought, but what do you think?
The present has many faces to it, has it not? And one should consider all before pronouncing an opinion as to its nature.
Où est mon cadeau, monsieur?
Your cadeau comes by post from Paris. Take her off into the corner and let her speak to you. No, Miss Eyre, you, come forward. Be seated here. No, not over there, that's too far off. Sit down exactly where I told you. If you please, that is. You have been resident in my house for 3 months?
Yes, sir.
And you come from?
Lowood School, sir.
A charitable concern. How long were you there?
8 years.
Oof, you must be tenacious of life. Who are your parents?
I have none.
No, I've ever had, I suppose. And your home?
I have no home.
Then who the deuce recommended you to come here?
I advertised and Mrs. Fairfax answered my advertisement.
Yes, and I am daily thankful for the choice Providence led me to make. Miss Eyre has been an invaluable companion to me and a kind teacher to Adele.
Spare me your eulogiums. She began by felling my horse. So, what? Were you waiting for your people when you sat on that stile?
For whom, sir?
For the men in green. It's a proper moonlight evening for them. Did I break through one of your rings? Did you spread that damned ice on the causeway?
The men in green all forsook England 100 years ago. I don't think either sun or moon will ever shine on the rebels more.
Brocklehurst, who I understand directs Lowood, is a parson, is he not?
Yes, sir.
And you girls probably worshipped him?
No.
What? A novice not worship her priest? That sounds blasphemous. Oh. And if you did not learn devotion, what did you learn at Lowood? Adele showed me some sketches which she said were yours, though probably a master aided you.
No, indeed.
Oh, well, that pricks pride. Well, fetch me your portfolio, if you can vouch for its contents being original.
You shall judge for yourself, sir.
Oh, no crowding, please. I perceive these were done indeed by one hand. Was that hand yours?
Yes.
And where did you get your copies?
From out of my head.
Oh. And do you feel self-satisfied with these?
Far from it. In each case, I had imagined something with which I was quite powerless to realize.
Not quite. You have secured the shadow of your thought, but no more probably. As to the thoughts, they are selfish. These eyes of the evening star you must have seen in a dream. How could you make them look so clear and yet not at all brilliant? And who taught you to paint the wind? Where did you see Latmos? That is Latmos. Oh, there. Put the drawings away. It is 9 o'clock. What are you about, Miss Eyre, to let Adele sit up so long?
Oh, gracious. Come, Adele, come to bed, to bed.
You told me Mr. Rochester was not strikingly peculiar.
And is he?
I think so.
Oh, my dear, I never bother about things. And if he has peculiarities of temper, allowances should be made.
Why?
He has painful thoughts, no doubt, that harass him.
What about?
Well, his family troubles, for one thing.
You told me he has no family.
Not now, but he has. His elder brother and his father died many years ago. But there were misunderstandings. The precise things, the precise nature I know not of. But Mr. Edward broke with him and has lived a very unsettled kind of life. And indeed, it is no wonder he shuns Thornfield.
Why should he shun it?
Perhaps it is too gloomy.
The answer was evasive. I should have liked something clearer.
The lights change and on to Reed and Brocklehurst pound at the windows in memory. Jane exit. These ghosts continue to pound and light transitions up on Jane, who is sketching.
Why did they send me so far and so lonely? Up where the moss spread and grey rocks are piled. Men are
Hard-hearted.
hard-hearted and the kind angels only. Watch for the steps of the poor orphan child.
Enters Mr. Rochester and Adele goes up to him.
Oh, Monsieur Rochester, écoutez ma chanson.
Away! Keep at a distance or go into the house.
Excuse the interruption, sir. Adele?
No. Wait. Alors, chantez, petit. S'il te plaît.
Why did they send me so far and so lonely? Up where the moss spread and grey rocks are piled. Men are hard-hearted and kind angels only. Oh, watch where these steps of the poor orphan child.
Tu es une vraie comédienne, ma belle. Just like your mother. Go in the house now. I'm sure Mrs. Fairfax has some cake for such an excellent actress. You told her that?
It is a lullaby from my youth.
Oh, rather grim dirge with which to entice Morpheus, I should say. You examined me, Miss Eyre. Do you think me handsome?
No?
By my word. You sit there never saying a word, but when one makes a remark to which you are obliged to reply, you rap out a round rejoinder. What do you mean by it?
Sir, I was too plain. I ought to have replied that tastes mostly differ, and that beauty is of little consequence or something of that sort.
You ought to have replied no such thing. Beauty of little consequence. Go on. What faults do you find with me? Pray. Does my forehead not please you? Am I a fool?
Far from it, sir. You would perhaps think me rude if I inquired in return whether you are a philanthropist.
Hell, there again. Another stick of the penknife. Is it because I sent that little French fellow away so abruptly? Well, no, Miss Eyre. When I was as old as you, I was a feeling fellow enough. But fate has knocked me about since, and now I flatter myself I'm as hard and tough as an Indian rubber ball. Pervious, though, through a chink or two still. Yes. Does that leave hope for me?
Hope of what, sir?
Well, you look puzzled, Miss Eyre. And though you are not pretty any more than I am handsome, puzzled air becomes you. It would please me to know more of you. Speak.
Of what, sir?
Whatever you like. You are silent, Miss Eyre. Stubborn and annoyed? It is consistent. I put my request in an absurd form. Miss Eyre, I beg your pardon. I desire you to have the goodness to talk with me a little now and divert my thoughts, which are galled with dwelling on one point cankering as a rusty nail.
How do I know what will interest you? Ask me questions and I will do my best to answer them.
Very well. Here is one. Do you agree with me that I have a right to be a little masterful on the grounds that I am older than you with 10 years difference in age and a centuries in experience?
I don't think you have the right to command me merely because you are older. Your claim to superiority depends on the use you've made of your time.
Properly spoken. But I won't allow that, seeing as it would never suit my case, as I have made an indifferent, not to say bad, use of both advantages. Leaving superiority out of the question then, do you agree to receive my orders occasionally without being hurt by the tone of my command? That smile is very well, but speak too.
I was thinking, sir, that very few masters would care whether their servants were hurt by their orders.
Servant. Oh, yes, I had forgotten salary. Ah, well, on that mercenary ground, will you agree to let me hector a little?
No, sir. But on the grounds that you did forget it, I agree heartily.
And will you consent to dispense with a great many conventional phrases without thinking me insolent?
I am sure, sir, I should never mistake informality for insolence. One I rather like, the other nothing freeborn would submit to, even for a salary.
Humbug. Most things freeborn will submit to anything for a salary, therefore don't venture on generalities of which you are intensely ignorant. However, I mentally shake hands with you for your answer, despite its inaccuracy. Not 3 in 3,000 country governesses would have spoken as you did. I don't mean to flatter you, though. If you are cast in a different mold than the majority, it is no merit of yours. Nature did it. And you may have intolerable defects to counterbalance your few good points. Yes, Miss Eyre, I have plenty of faults of my own. I know it. But nature intended me to be a good man. I might have been as good as you, wiser, almost as stainless. Little girl, a memory without blot or contamination must be an exquisite treasure, an inexhaustible source of pure refreshment, is it not?
How was your memory when you were 18, sir?
All right, then. No gush of bilge water had turned it into a fetid puddle. I was quite your equal. But then fate wronged me, and I degenerated. I wish I had stood firm. God knows I do. Dread remorse when you are tempted to err. Remorse is the poison of life.
Repentance is said to be the cure.
Oh, it is not the cure. Reformation is the cure. But what is the use of thinking that, cursed as I am? Besides, since happiness is irrevocably denied me, I have a right to get pleasure out of life. Sweet, fresh pleasure.
It will taste bitter, sir.
How do you know? You've never tried it. By what instinct do you pretend to distinguish between a fallen seraph and a messenger from the eternal throne? Between a guide and a seducer?
Speak the truth, sir. I don't understand you at all. I cannot keep up the conversation because it has got out of my depth. Only one thing I know. You said we're not as good as you would like to be, and it seems to me that if you tried hard, you would in time find it possible to become what yourself would approve of. And in a few years, you would have laid up a new and stainless store of memories.
Miss Eyre, do you know what I was thinking when I came upon you in Adele just now? I was arranging a point with my destiny. She stood there, by that beech trunk, like one of Macbeth's hags on the heath. You like Thornfield, she said, lifting her finger. And then she wrote in the air a memento. Like it if you can. Like it if you dare. I will like it. I dare like it. I know what my aim is, what my motives are, and at this moment I pass a law that both are right.
They cannot be, sir, if they require a new law to legalize them. You take on a power with which the divine alone can be trusted.
What power?
Of saying, let it be right.
The very words you have pronounced them. Let it be right.
May it be right then.
Where are you going?
It is time for Adele's class, sir.
You are afraid of me because I talk like a sphinx.
I am bewildered, but I am certainly not afraid.
You are afraid. Your self-love dreads a blunder.
I have no wish to talk nonsense.
Oh, if you did, it would be in such a grave, quiet manner I should mistake it for sense. Do you never laugh, Miss Eyre? Don't trouble yourself to answer. I see you laugh rarely. But when you do, it is a merry sound. Well, I must go now. And you too. It darkens.
There's a transition and Rochester exits. Spirits re-enter.
You must be on guard against him. If necessary, avoid his company. Shut him out from your converse. Watch him. Weigh well his words. Scrutinize his actions, for my tongue falters while I tell it. This man is...
There's a strange laugh. And Brocklehurst exits. Bertha enters, dimly seen. She's carrying a candle, and she talks incomprehensibly at first.
I am, you are, he is, she is, they is. Non, ce n'est pas ça correct. Men are hard-hearted, kind angels only. Watch all the steps of the poor orphan child. I will burn it out. I will burn it out. I will burn it out. Like it if you can. Like it if you dare.
Suddenly we see the spirits and they are afraid.
I heard a voice.
I heard a voice.
Who's there?
Bertha exits.
There is an invisible world and a kingdom of spirits, and that world is around us.
Who is there?
And those spirits watch us, for they are commissioned to guard us.
Who is there?
Enters Jane in her nightdress and the spirits disappear.
Who is there? My God, Mr. Rochester, wake! Wake, Mr. Rochester, please wake!
What the devil? Are you trying to drown me?
There's a fire! Get up, do!
Is that Jane Eyre?
Sir, I was asleep and something woke me. A laugh. Then when I rose to see what sounded so, I smelled smoke and...
Gently, gently.
Shall I call Mrs. Fairfax?
What the deuce would you call her for? Just be still. Did you see anything when you opened your chamber door?
No, sir.
But you heard an odd laugh.
Yes, sir. There is a woman who sews here called Grace Poole. She laughs in that way. She is a singular person.
Just so. Grace Poole. She is, as you say, singular. Very. Well, I shall reflect on the subject. Meantime, I am glad you are the only person acquainted with the precise details of tonight's incident. You are no talking fool. Say nothing about it. I will account for this state of affairs. And now return to your own room. I shall do very well on the sofa in the library for the rest of the night.
Good night, then, sir.
What? Are you quitting me already, and in that way?
You said I might go, sir.
But not without taking leave. Not without a word or two of acknowledgement. At least shake hands. You have saved my life. I have a pleasure in owing you so immense a debt.
Good night again, sir. There is no debt.
I knew you would do me good in some way. I saw it in your eyes when I first beheld you. Their expression did not strike delight in my innermost heart so for nothing. My cherished preserver. Good night.
I'm glad I happen to be awake.
What, will you go?
I am cold, sir.
Cold, yes. Well, go then, Jane, go.
I think I hear Mrs. Fairfax, sir.
Well, leave me.
Jane exits, and then Rochester. There's a transition, and enters Grace Poole, who is gathering her bedclothes. Enters Jane in her robe.
Good morning, miss. Good morning, Grace. What is all that water?
Master has been reading in his bed all night. He fell asleep with his candle lit and there was a fire.
Indeed.
Fortunately, he woke and contrived to quench the flames.
Strange affair. I wonder no one heard him.
The servants sleep so far off, miss, they would not be likely to hear. Mrs. Fairfax's room and yours are the nearest to the master's, but Mrs. Fairfax said she heard nothing. When people get elderly, they often sleep heavy. But you are young, miss, and I should say a light sleeper. Perhaps you may have heard a noise.
I did. I'm certain I heard a laugh, and a strange one.
It's hardly likely master would laugh, I should think, miss, when he was in such danger. You must have been dreaming.
I was not dreaming.
Have you told the master you had a laugh?
I have not had the opportunity of speaking to him this morning.
You did not think of opening your door and looking out into the gallery?
On the contrary, I bolted the door.
That's a wise thing to do. I always think it best to err on the safe side. The door is soon fastened.
Mrs. Fairfax enters with Jane's dress.
Grace, you want to downstairs?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, Miss Eyre, it is a mercy Mr. Rochester was not burned alive last night in his bed. That's all I have to say. Here, I brought you a gown. Leah's just finished pressing it. Oh, my dear, you look flushed. Are you not well today?
Oh, quite well. I never felt better.
Here, let me help you. It is a beautiful morning. I believe it will be a favourable day for Mr. Rochester's journey.
What?
Oh, he set off quite early, the moment he breakfasted. He was gone to the Lees, Mrs. Easton's place. I believe there's quite a party assembling there.
Do you expect him back tonight?
No, not tonight, nor tomorrow either. He left word he shall return in a week or two with some guests. So we shall have much to do in the meantime, making Thornfield presentable.
How long will they stay?
Oh, my dear, I could not say. Mr. Rochester is a very popular man in society.
Indeed.
Certainly, the ladies are fond of him.
I see. Then there will be ladies coming to Thornfield, I suppose.
Oh, to be sure. There will be Miss Easton, of course, a pretty girl, and Lady Ingram's 2 daughters, Mary and the Honourable Blanche, both very charming women. Indeed, I saw Blanche at this very house 6 or 7 years since. It was a Christmas ball. I should think there were 50 or 60 ladies and gentlemen present, but Miss Ingram was considerably the belle of the evening.
And what was she like?
Oh, a fine figure, sloping shoulders, a long, graceful neck, beautiful eyes, large and black, and brilliant as her jewels. And then she had such a fine head of hair, raven black and so becomingly arranged. She was dressed in pure white. I remember, and it became her admirably.
I wonder no worthy gentleman has taken a fancy to her. Mr. Rochester, for instance.
There was talk once that they should make a match of it, and I, for once, should not be surprised if it still came to pass. Now, my dear, I'll see about breakfast. Mind you, don't be late.
A greater fool than Jane Eyre never breathed the breath of life.
I'm careless.
You, a favourite of Mr. Rochester.
I forget rules.
You, gifted with the power of pleasing him.
I seldom put to never keep things in order.
Listen, Jane Eyre, to your sentence. Tomorrow you will draw and chalk your own picture faithfully, without softening one defect. And then you will write under it, portrait of a governess. Disconnected, poor and plain. Afterwards, take a piece of smooth ivory, and in your most delicate pencils, draw the loveliest face you can imagine, according to the description given by Mrs. Fairfax. Remember the raven ringlets, fine figure, the dark and brilliant eyes. No sentiment, no regret. I will endure only sense and resolution. And whenever in the future you should chance to fancy Mr. Roger thinks well of you, you take up these 2 pictures and compare them.
There's a light and transition, and Rochester enters, as well as Lady Ingram, to a burst of laughter and applause. Helen exits. We're at
A fig for Rizzio, that insipid fellow. I like Black Bothwell better. To my mind, a man is nothing without the spice of the devil in him. And I have a notion that he was just the sort of wild, fierce, bandit hero whom I could have consented to gift with my hand.
I was not introduced, but later Mrs. Fairfax told me their names.
I'm so sick of the young men of the present day, poor puny things not fit to stir a step beyond Papa's Park gates.
Oh, you are wicked.
I was Amy Ashton.
These modern men are so absorbed in care about their pretty faces, as if a man had anything to do with beauty. I grant an ugly woman is a blot on the fair face of creation.
But as for the gentlemen, let them be so solicitous to possess only strength and valor.
But as to the gentlemen, let them be solicitous to possess only the strength and valor. Let their motto be hunt, shoot, and fight. The rest is not worth a fillip. Such should be my device were I a man. Do you not agree, my lady mother?
Of course, my lily flower, of course.
They embrace.
Lady Ingram, very intolerable.
And when I marry, I am resolved that my husband shall not be a rival, but a foil to me. I will suffer no competitor near my throne. I shall exact an undivided homage. His devotion shall not be shared between me and the shape he sees in the mirror.
And finally, the Honourable Blanche Ingram. But what of Mr. Rochester?
And now, I move the introduction of a new topic. Mr. Rochester, do you second my motion?
Madam, I support you on this point as on every other.
Then on me be the onus of bringing it forward. Signor Eduardo, will you play for me tonight?
Donna Bianca, if you command it, I will.
Then, signor, I lay on you my sovereign behest to limber up your fingers, as they will be wanted on my royal services.
I am all obedience.
Take care. If you don't please me, I will shame you by showing you how such things should be done.
Oof, that is offering a premium on capacity. I shall now endeavour to fail.
But if you err willfully, I shall devise a proportionate punishment.
Miss Ingram ought to be clement, for she has it in her power to inflict a chastisement beyond mortal endurance.
Explain.
Your own fine sense must inform you that one of your frowns would be sufficient substitute for capital punishment.
Your words please your sovereign, my lord.
Oh, bonjour, madames.
Oh, what a love of a child.
Oh, it is Mr. Rochester's ward, I suppose, the little French girl you were speaking of. Ugh.
Ah, come here, my dear.
She's quite the little puppet. Mr. Rochester, I thought you were not fond of children.
Nor am I.
Then what induced you to take charge of such a little doll as that? Where did you pick her up?
I did not pick her up. She was left on my hands.
Well, you should have sent her to school.
I could not afford it.
Why, I suppose you have a governess for her. I saw a person with her just now. Is she gone? No, there she is. She's behind the window curtain. You pay her, of course. I should think it's quite as expensive.
I have not considered the subject.
No, you men never do consider economy and common sense. You should hear Mamma on the chapter of governesses. I have had, I should think, a dozen at least in my day. Half of them detestable and the rest ridiculous. Were they not, Mamma?
Did you speak, my love?
My governesses, Mamma.
Oh, my dearest, don't mention the word. I have suffered a martyrdom for their incompetence and caprice. I hope it may do her good. I noticed her. I am a judge on physiognomy, and in hers I see all her faults of her class.
What are they, madam?
I will tell you privately.
But my curiosity craves food now.
Ask Blanche. She's nearer to you than I.
Oh, don't refer him to me, Mamma. I have just one word to save the whole tribe. They're a nuisance. It's not that I ever suffered much from them. Oh, what tricks we used to play on our Miss Wilsons and Miss Greys and Madame Joubert's. Do you remember Mary? Madame Joubert. She was the best. Oh, you villains, child. She would wail as we tossed her books around the schoolroom.
We used to quiz our governess too, but she was such a good creature. She would bear anything.
I suppose now we shall have an abstract of the memoirs of our governesses extant. In order to avert such a visitation, I move that we adjourn to the drawing room for a game of billiards, Mr. Rochester.
Madam, your pleasure is mine.
Party moves off and Rochester stops Jane from exiting.
How do you do?
I am very well, sir.
Why did you not come to speak to me in the room?
I did not wish to disturb you, as you seemed engaged.
What have you been doing during my absence?
Nothing particular. Teaching Adele as usual.
I'm getting a good deal paler than you were. What is the matter?
Nothing at all, sir.
Did you take any cold that night in my room?
Not in the least.
Come to the drawing room. You're deserting too early.
I am tired, sir.
And a little depressed. What about? Tell me.
Nothing. I am not depressed.
But I affirm that you are. So much depressed that a few more words would bring tears to your eyes. Indeed, they are there now. If I had time, I would know what all this means. Well, tonight I excuse you. But understand that so long as my visitors stay, I expect you to appear in the drawing room every night. It is my wish. Don't neglect it. Now go. And send Mrs. Fairfax for Adele. Good night,
He exits, and the partygoers work and move with stylized movements as Jane watches in the foreground. As she speaks, lights down on the stylized party to reflect a small light, a spotlight on Jane.
I see them smile, laugh. It's nothing. The light of candles has as much soul as their smiles. I see Mr. Rochester smile, and I look for their eyes to fall, their colour to rise. There is nothing. They were in no sense moved. He is not what he is. He is not their kind of their kind. I'm sure he is. I know I must conceal my sentiments. I know I must smother hope. I must remember that he cannot care much for me, but while I live and breathe, I must love him.
Thunder and rain strikes, and there's a transition on Amy and Blanche, who are languid and bored at the party.
Does it always rain at Thornfield? I believe it's been wet the last 3 days we've been here.
This weather is insupportable. I wanted to see that gypsy camp.
It is a great shame that Mr. Rochester has gone today, or he might have taken us, in spite of the dirt. There's always tomorrow.
Tomorrow may do for some, but not for me.
Perhaps Mr. Mayson can escort us.
Mr. Mayson? I should think not. Very odd of him, complaining and planting himself here, with Mr. Rochester away.
But he is so amiable, and a very old friend of Mr. Rochester's.
So he says.
A beautiful man, don't you think? Such a pretty little mouth and a nice nose. That is my idea of charming. And he is so well-bred and interesting. I've never met anyone from Jamaica. Do you think he owns many plantations?
I think developing a megrim.
Enters Mr. Mayson with Lady Ingram.
Mr. Mayson, well, we were just speaking of you.
Forgive me, Miss Ashton.
A most extraordinary circumstance.
I had just met Lady Ingram on the stair when we were stopped by the housekeeper.
You girls are not to leave this room.
Well, apparently there's an old woman in the front parlour who's been quite troublesome.
An old woman? Well, what does she want?
Well, to tell the gentry their fortunes, and she swears she will do it.
What did you see her, Mr. Mayson? Well, what did she look like?
That I couldn't say, Miss Ashton. She says she won't have any gentlemen in to see her, only the ladies. The young and single ones.
Why? She's a real sorceress. Let's have her in.
My dearest Blanche.
Yeah, it would be 1,000 pities to throw away such a chance of fun.
I cannot possibly countenance such an incompetent proceedings.
Indeed, Mamma, you can and you will. I have a curiosity to have my fortune told.
Well, in that case, I believe the gypsy has been taken into the library. Apparently, she told the housekeeper it is not her mission to appear before the vulgar herd, so you all must see her one by one.
You see now, my queenly Blanche, she encroaches. Be advised, my angel girl, my darling.
It is not my mission to listen to her before the vulgar herd either.
Oh, my best, my dearest, pause, reflect. Blanche, I shall stand by the door.
I believe, Mr. Mayson, you mentioned that your plantation, home rather, is in Spanish Town?
That is correct, Miss Ashton.
And how did you come to know Mr. Rochester?
He was... That is, did you not know that Mr. Rochester used to live in Jamaica? But he didn't care for the climate, the hurricanes, rainy season, you know.
Enters Blanche, who is very angry, followed by Lady Ingram.
Oh, my lily flower.
Well, what did she say? Is she a real fortune teller?
I have seen a gypsy vagabond. She told me what such people usually tell. My whim is gratified, and now I think the magistrate ought to be called to put the old hag in the stocks.
I still want to go. Mr. Mayson, you must stand by the door. And if you should hear a scream, you must promise to come to our rescue.
Really, Mamma, Amy Ashton is becoming quite impossible, and Mary is a little better. What will people think, you allowing them to see such a creature?
Blanche, my angel, my dove.
I say,
Yes.
the thing is, well, it's very odd, but the old fortune teller has sent word that there is another unmarried lady in the room, and she's not been to see her yet, and she swears she will not go until she's seen them all. I'm afraid it must be you.
Indeed.
So will you see her? Or must I send her away?
I will see her, by all means.
Mayson exits. There's thunder and rain in a transition, and Jane is now found with the gypsy.
Well, and do you want your fortune told?
You may please yourself, Mother, but I ought to warn you. I have no faith.
Oh, it's like your impudence to say so. Why don't you tremble?
I'm not cold.
Why don't you turn pale?
I'm not sick.
Why don't you consult my art?
I'm not silly.
You are cold, you are sick, you are silly.
Prove it.
You are cold because you are alone. You are sick because of the best of feelings, the highest and the sweetest given to man, keep far away from you. You are silly because, suffer as you may, you will not stir one step to meet it where it waits for you.
You might say that to almost anyone.
I wonder what you think of as you sit amongst those fine people. Is there a figure whose movements you follow with curiosity?
I like to observe all the figures.
But do you never single one from the rest? The master of the house, for instance. Of late, many smiles have been shed upon Mr. Rochester.
He has a right to enjoy the society of his guests.
Yes, Mr. Rochester has sat by the hour, listening to a certain pair of fascinating lips. They look so grateful for the pastime given him, don't you think?
Cannot remember detecting gratitude in his face.
Ha! You have analysed then, and what did you see? Well, you have seen love, have you not?
Not exactly.
What the devil have you seen then?
Is it known that Mr. Rochester is to be married?
Yes, and to the beautiful Miss Ingram. Although just now I told her something regarding her beloved's fortune which made her look wondrous grave.
But I did not come to hear Mr. Rochester's fortune. I came to hear my own.
True. Kneel here before me. Let me see your face. Oh, yes. The eyes shine like dew. It looks soft and full of feeling. It turns from me now. But its pride and reserve only confirm in me my opinion. The eye is favourable. As to the mouth, it delights in laughter. That feature is too propitious. In fact, I see no enemy to a fortune issue but in the brow. It says, I can live alone if self-respect requires me to do so. I need not sell my soul to buy bliss. Well said, foreign. Your declaration shall be respected. I have formed my own plans. Right plans, I deem them. I know if the cup of bliss were offered, want or drag of shame would poison it. Such is not my taste. I wish to foster, not blight. Oh, that will do. I'm raving almost. I have gathered myself tonight, but further might try me beyond my strength. Rise, Miss Eyre. The play is played out.
Sir, what a strange idea.
But well acted, huh?
You've been talking nonsense to make me talk nonsense. It is scarcely fair.
Oh, do you forgive me, Jane?
I cannot tell till I have thought it over. If, on reflection, I find I have fallen into no great absurdity.
Oh, you have been very correct, very careful.
I have your permission to retire now, I suppose.
Nope. Stay a moment. Tell me what the people in the drawing room are doing.
Discussing the gypsy, I suppose.
Hmm.
Oh, are you aware, Mr. Rochester, that a stranger arrived this morning?
I expected no one. Is he gone?
He said he had known you long and that he could take the liberty of installing himself here till you returned.
The devil he did. Did he give his name?
Mayson, sir.
Mayson.
Do you feel ill, sir?
Jane, I've got a blow.
Here, lean on me, sir.
Jane, If all those people in the drawing room came and spat at me, what would you do?
I'd turn them out of the room, sir, if I could.
You would dare censure for my sake?
I would dare it for the sake of any friend who deserved my adherence. As you, I'm sure, do.
Go now back into the drawing room. Tell Mayson quietly that Mr. Rochester is back and will see him. Tell him I await upstairs.
I did what he asked. I sought Mr. Mayson. I delivered the message. Company stared. At a late hour, I heard the visitors go to their chambers.
Off this way, Mayson. This is your room.
This tone set my heart at ease.
Jane exits and there's a transition. Off stage, we hear a struggle and the sound of snarls. It's night.
Help! Help, Rochester, for God's sakes, come!
The entire company enters in nightclothes holding candles.
What is it? Well, someone has been hurt.
Is it robbers?
Where's Mr. Rochester?
Here. Be composed, all of you.
What awful an event to take place.
Don't strangle me. All's right. A servant has had a nightmare, that is all. Now, back to your rooms, all of you.
All that except for Rochester and Jane.
Miss Ingram, I am sure you will evince superiority to Idle Terrace. Set the example, if you please. Ladies, please, to bed. Jane, good, you are dressed.
I thought I might be needed.
Come this way. Wait, you don't turn sick at the sight of blood.
I think I shall not.
Give me your hand. It will not do to risk a fainting fit. Warm and steady. Good. Hold that.
Is there danger?
No, a mere scratch. I'll fetch a surgeon for you now. You'll be able to leave by morning, I hope. Jane?
Yes?
I shall have to leave you in this room with this gentleman for an hour, perhaps two. He will sponge the blood as I do when it returns. You will not speak to him on any pretext. And Richard, it will be at the peril of your life if you speak to her.
Edward.
Remember, no conversation.
He exits and there's a transition. Enters the spirits of Aunt Reed, Helen, and Brocklehurst.
I dipped my hand again and again in the basin of blood and water.
You come to say goodbye to me, Jane. Your little feet are bare, you are cold.
We watched the candle wane.
Let me warm you.
I fear this man is dying, yet I must not speak to him.
I buried a child 5 years old only a day ago. A good little child, whose soul is now in heaven. It is to be feared the same could not be said for you. Were you to be called birds?
There are snarls from Bertha from off stage.
I must keep my post. I must keep my post. I must keep my post. I must keep my post.
You hear from off stage again a laugh.
I will drain your heart.
There is a kingdom of spirits that is round us, and they watch us for their commission to guard us and recognize our innocence.
I will suck your blood. I will drain your heart dry.
You will stay in the red room.
Oh, when will he come? When will he come?
Rochester enters with the doctor and the spirits subside.
Carter, I give you but half an hour for the dressing the wound and getting him downstairs. Now, my good fellow, how are you?
She's done me, I fear.
Not a whit. Carter, assure him that there's no danger.
Yes, no, I can do that conscientiously, but how is this? The flesh on his shoulder is torn as well as cut. There have been teeth here.
She bit me. She worried me like a tigress when Rochester got the knife from her.
You should have grappled with her at once.
She looked so quiet at first. I thought I might do some good.
You thought! Come, Carter, hurry. The sun is almost up and I must have him off.
Yeah, it's done.
She sucked my blood. She said she drained my heart.
Be silent, Richard, and never mind her gibberish.
I wish I could forget it.
You will, once you're back in Spanish Town. Take him to the carriage, Carter. Goodbye, Dick.
Edward.
What is it?
Let her be taken care of. Let her be treated as tenderly as may be. Let her...
I do my best and have done it. And will do it.
Carter and Mayson exits.
Yet would to God were there an end to all this.
We hear a wailing child and a laughing child, and then lights up on Helen, who is vigorously rocking a doll.
Presentiments are strange things. When I was a little girl, I once heard someone say that to dream of children was a sure sign of trouble. That night at Thornfield, I dreamt of an infant. And the next night, and the next night. It was a wailing child one night, a laughing child the next. That afternoon, I was summoned downstairs by a message.
Brocklehurst peers from behind, and a small spotlight is on Mrs. Reed, but she's no longer ghostly and just an old woman existing in the present.
Jane.
It was from Gateshead. It was from Mrs. Reed.
Bring me Jane Eyre.
The letter was full of troubles, hinted at a fortune lost in gambling. Her son, John Reed, was dead. Perhaps it was suicide.
Bring me Jane Eyre.
And she wished to see me, would not rest until she saw me.
As Jane moves towards Mrs. Reed, there are two spirits watching.
Is that Jane Eyre?
Yes. Who are you, Aunt Reed?
She bends to kiss her, and Mrs. Reed turns her face away.
Stand away. Don't annoy me by holding the bedclothes fast. Are you Jane Eyre?
I am.
I had more trouble with that child than anyone would believe. Her incomprehensible disposition, her fits of temper, her unnatural watchings of one's movements. Who is it calls me aunt? She would not call me aunt. I know you. You are Jane Eyre. Is there no one in the room with you?
No one.
What we think little of in life burdens us in our final hour. Read this.
But who is William Eyre, Aunt? Aunt?
Jane Eyre. How my husband loved a poor pulling thing.
Will you have the goodness to send me the address of my niece, Jane Eyre? I wish her to come to me in Jamaica.
I shall never forget that day when he turned on me.
I intend to adopt her.
Declared I had treated her with miserable cruelty.
Make her my heir.
It was as if an animal I had struck looked up with human eyes and cursed me in a man's voice.
Think no more of it, Aunt. I was a child then.
I tell you, I cannot forget it. I took my revenge. I wrote to her uncle. I told him she had died of typhus at Lowood.
If you could be persuaded to regard me with kindness.
She had a very bad disposition.
Many times as a child, I would have been glad to love you.
Impossible to understand.
You have my forgiveness.
She was born to be my torment.
Love me then or hate me as you will. You have my full and free forgiveness. Peace.
Aunt Reed dies, and there's a ghostly voice that says, Jane, 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 as Jane exits, followed by Mr. Brocklehurst and Helen. Helen looks back, and Mrs. Reed's eyes are wide open. She stands but is left behind, and we never see her again. There's a transition, and we're back at Thornfield. Jane re-enters.
Jane Eyre. By my life, it is Jane Eyre. Come here, if you please. Are you coming from town? And on foot? You look guilty, as you should. Truant. You said you'd be gone a week. What the deuce have you done with yourself this last month?
I have been with my aunt, sir, who is dead.
A true Janian reply. She comes from the other world, from the abode of people who are dead.
I am glad to be returned, sir.
Where are you going?
To the house?
No, stay a bit. I have long wished to talk to you on a certain subject. Come closer, Jane. Thornfield is a pleasant place in the summer, is it not?
Yes, sir.
I perceive you have an affection for it, and though I don't comprehend how it can be, I also perceive that you have acquired a degree of regard for that foolish little child Adele, too. Even simple Dame Fairfax, is this not so?
Yes, sir. I have affection for both.
And would be very sorry to part with them?
Yes.
Pity. Because very soon, Miss Eyre, it is my intention to take Miss Ingram to my bosom. She's an extensive armful, but that's not to the point. One can't have too much of such a very excellent thing as my beautiful Blanche. Listen to me, Jane. Why do you turn your head?
I suppose, sir, Adele ought to go to school. I'm sure you perceive the necessity for it.
To get her out of my bride's way, who might otherwise walk over her rather too emphatically. There's sense in the suggestion, not a doubt of it. And you?
I should hope, sir, that Adele and I would both be safe out of the house before your bride enters it. I will advertise immediately. And...
Advertise? Not at all. I myself have found a place for you. No, don't speak of it. When a dependent does her duty as well as you have done yours, she has a sort of claim upon her employer for any little assistance he can conveniently render her. I have heard of a place that I think will suit, with Mrs. Dionysius Ogar of Bitternet Lodge, in Ireland.
'Tis a long way off, sir.
No matter. A girl of your sense will not object to a long sea voyage.
But the distance.
From what, Jane?
From England and from Thornfield and...
Well?
From you, sir.
It is a long way to Ireland, but if I can't do better, how is it to be helped? Are you anything akin to me, do you think, Jane? Because I sometimes have the queer feeling with regard to you as if I'd a string here, inextricably knotted to one there. And I'm afraid that if that boisterous channel came between us, the cord of communication would be snapped and I should take to bleeding inwardly. As for you, well, you'd forget me.
That I never should, sir, you know. I wish I'd never been born, nor never come to Thornfield.
Because you are sorry to leave it?
I am sorry. I love Thornfield, because in it I've lived a full and delightful life. I have known you, Mr. Rochester, and it strikes me with anguish to feel that I absolutely must be torn from you forever. I see the necessity of departure, and it is looking on the necessity of death.
Where do you see the necessity?
In the shape of Miss Ingram, your bride.
I have no bride.
But you will have.
Yes, I will. I will.
I must go.
No, you will stay. I swear it.
I tell you I must go. Do you think I can stay to become nothing to you? Do you think because I am poor, obscure and plain, that I am soulless and heartless as well? You think wrong. I have as much soul as you and full as much heart. And if God had gifted me with some beauty and wealth, I should have made it as hard for you to leave me as it is now for me to leave you. I am not talking to you now through the medium of conventionalities. It is my spirit that addresses your spirit, just as if both we had passed through the grave and we stood at God's feet equal, as we are.
As we are. So, Jane.
Let me go. You are a married man as good as one, and wed to one who you do not truly love. I would scorn such a union. I am better than you. Let me go.
Jane, be still. Don't struggle so like a bird in a net.
No bird, no net ensnares me. I am a free human being.
True. So you shall decide your destiny. Jane, I offer you my heart, my hand, and a share of all my possessions.
You play a farce and I laugh at it.
I am asking you to pass through life at my side.
The bride stands between us.
My bride is here because my equal is here and my likeness. Jane, will you marry me? Do you still doubt me?
Entirely.
What love have I for Miss Ingram? None. What love has she for me? None. I could not marry Miss Ingram. Why do you look at me, Jane? Jane, you torture me.
I'm trying to read your face.
God, you torture me, Jane. Jane, accept me quickly. Say, Edward, give me my name. Edward, I will marry you.
Are you in earnest? Do you truly love me?
I swear it. Say the words. Say them.
Edward, I will marry you.
They kiss and thunder crashes in the distance.
It will atone. It will atone. Have I not found her friendless and cold and comfortless? Is there not love in my heart? I know my Maker sanctions what I do. As for man's opinion, I defy it.
Another crash of thunder strikes and the lights go out. End of Act 1. Well done, well done. All right, now that we're at the end of Act 1, I will be giving our actors a brief intermission to go get another drink if you want, to use the restroom. In the meantime, and I will need to break in a minute, but I will just briefly, I'm going to talk a little bit more about Acting for a Cause. Everyone who's listening, if you all donated $5 right now to the cause, which is really, you know, it goes directly as an impact because I'm a volunteer. Everyone here is a volunteer. Everyone involved in this organization is a volunteer. Therefore, every single dollar is going towards the actual cause. It's just such a rare opportunity to make a difference. Just a brief thank you, a very deep-hearted thank you to all of our actors who are participating in this. You all are so, so incredible. I personally am so impressed by how devoted you all are to this script. They all received this a week ago, everyone. And some of you even less. Some of you just days ago were yesterday. You know, we put together every single play reading the weekend so basically we do a play reading on Friday, and on Saturday we're figuring out what adaptation we'll be doing of the play that we've chosen. And in the case of Jane Eyre, that was exactly the case. You all are really incredible. We've done many plays. This is our 6th in our series, if I can count. We first started with The Importance of Being Earnest. Dukes, Jessica Francis Dukes, Dukes being your nickname, that's I went right to it, who is amazing. And also you should check out the 3rd season of Ozark, just you kill it. I got a chance to watch it. She actually, on the day of the premiere, was in our first ever reading of The Importance of Being Earnest, as was Alex Wolff from Hereditary, Justice Smith, Ali Carvalho, the voice of Moana. We had a blast. You can go back and see This Is Our Youth with Florence Pugh and Alex Wolff and Justice Smith return. Written by Academy Award winner Kenneth Lonergan. We went on to do 2 Shakespeare plays, Romeo and Juliet and Hamlet, also with amazing all-star casts. Romeo and Juliet was with David Corenswet on the date of the release of Hollywood, Margaret Qualley from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, also Emmy nominated for Fosse Vernon. And then we did Hamlet as a gender flip. So you can see Willa Fitzgerald as an amazing Hamlet, Brandon Flynn as a marvelous Ophelia, and we learned the difficulty of being playing a female role during Shakespeare's time, despite it all being all men who did Shakespeare at that time in Elizabethan. You know, it is a complicated role and a very punished role to play. And before this one, we did our most watched read of Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, which you can go back, which was our most viewed and most money raised. And that leads me to remind you all that we want to beat the amount raised so far. We are very much hoping to raise more than the last one. It was amazing. The last one, we raised $5,000 towards the EIF, which then gets split into our 2 charities. Again, the EIF goes towards arts education. Mount Sinai Hospital goes towards the front lines and families affected by coronavirus. Now, just before we go on to the second act, I will briefly share my screen and I'm going to make a donation, which you can all basically see, every viewer who is here, exactly how it goes. And forgive me for all the tabs I have open. All right, let me do this. Screen share and then full screen. So you go to actingforacause.org. You go to that in the URL. And if you're on mobile, on the upper right-hand corner, there's a menu with 3 lines. You have to click on it to see these options. You just click Donate Now. On Donate Now, you can click the amount that you'd like to donate. I'm going to go ahead and go with the top amount because that's what I can do right now. Some of you will go with $10. 25 is great. That's a really moderate amount. And if all 3,000 of you were to donate 10, imagine that's a lot of money. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to go off of screen share for a minute while I put in the credit card information because that actually happens. And so make sure you put in all the information, including your billing address. And it's a very secure network. The EIF is a giant national charity. The reason why we partnered with an organization that is so big has a lot to do with, we want to make as much change as possible. One thing that the EIF is, they're not afraid of Washington and actually going to the White House to actually support arts education. It's very important to us. You know, arts education, again, it's the first cut to be made when any programs are put into existence. So here I'm putting in my email address, info@actingforacause.org. There we go. And then I'm going to screen share again. And I actually realized I got a few messages that the screen share was not working the last time. So here I am back. I'm going to click Give Now. And then you get, you see the total amount. You get this via email as well. You get a letter from the president and CEO. This is fully tax deductible. There's no reason why you shouldn't be doing this and make a difference in someone's life. Again, that's the best way. People always ask, how can I, you know, I'm a huge fan of so-and-so. How can I support my favorite actor? This is a great way because we don't need anything, but people in need do need something. So I'm going to take a brief moment to go and get another drink, and I'll be right back. And then we're going to start Act 2. Thank you all so much.
Rudy, Pankow, it's just you and me.
Oh man, I've been dreaming for this moment for a long time.
Honestly, man, I'm actually glad everyone left. Oh, well, here we go.
Sorry.
Still hear you.
Honestly, like,
Intimate moment.
I didn't mean to disturb this.
Look, all the boring people have left. We can hang out.
No, Rich, I'm sorry. Babe, come back.
No, I'm so sorry.
But no, hey, goodness gracious, Alex, like that the emphasis tempo that you have is just so remarkable. Like I just have to say that to you right now. It's like when you flow through it like you do and you are with such ease, I'm like, all right. You know what it reminds me of? I'm so inspired by it. It's like they got Wesley in actually Princess Bride. Like you have that same tempo, that same cadence to your speech.
Man.
No, it's really is.
That's sweet of you to say. I have no idea what I'm saying. I'm going at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and so I'm just trying to get out of my own way.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Thank you, man.
Also love the gypsy reveal.
The gypsy reveal, my great,
Fantastic.
my coming out, as it were. I loved it. By the way, you're giving me so much Peaky Blinders. It's my favorite.
Oh, me?
Yeah, man.
Oh,
I don't know what it is. I don't know.
Probably
But-
because I binged the entire show.
Yeah, man.
I love it.
That's
man.
one of my favorites, man. That is top notch.
Blinders in the look, or you're saying in
Like the vibe, the voice, the vibe. I'm getting like
Murphy?
my order of the Peaky fucking Blinders.
My order of Peaky fucking Blinders.
Yeah. The Cockney accent.
Should I just go like shave an undercut real quick while we're still on intermission?
You know what? You actually could pass as one of the brothers.
You really
Just
could.
saying.
No, Rich, you could though.
Yeah, we'll get that going.
You call your agent. Hey, bro. So,
Hey, real quick, made an impulse decision. Hope you're not pissed.
I'm moving to England.
I'm moving to England to join the English underworld.
actually, true story. I knew a friend that went out and so there was just a commotion going on downtown in LA, and this guy saw another man beating a woman, and he pulled him to the side and beat the crap out of him. And supposedly the director for Peaky Blinders was at this same venue, and he saw this happen, and he went up to the gentleman that just beat the crap out of the other guy and was just like, would you want to be on a TV show? And the guy in the upcoming season, this man will be in the next season just because he saw this happen.
What?
Wow.
Yeah. No, true
What
story.
you're saying is we should go get in a.
So what you're saying is go out and
I don't know what the moral of that story is, but I think there's something that we can take from there.
There's a little morality to it. I was just, when we thought about Peaky Blinders, I was like, I know a story about Peaky Blinders.
I thought that's how like Natalia got her role in Stranger Things. It was like similar, is that right?
Just beat someone up.
Yeah.
By the way, Natalia, you're killing it as Jane.
Oh, all of you guys are killing it.
Carrying it on your shoulders.
There's a lot of words. It's very by the end of.
And Sophia's singing. You're singing.
Can we get a shout out for Sophia Lillis' French?
Yeah, that. Thank you.
Oh man,
Thank
it's
you,
so
Jared.
good.
Practice that.
Dialect, the English with the French accent, singing, spoken.
Yeah.
These are on flips.
Yeah. Thanks you.
Not to mention the singing part, singing quote unquote badly, like that's impressive. Like there's one thing to sing.
I
good.
would actually listen to you sing. I actually really enjoy the way you
Wow. Thank you.
sing. Like you and Richard have a folk band in the making with the guitars in the background.
You're planning that already.
Yeah.
Oh, Richard.
So Sophia could actually play. She's pretty good.
Play what?
Guitar.
Guitar. Oh yeah. You tried to teach me guitar, didn't you?
Make yourself valuable. Play up your skills so you can be a part of this.
All right, we are all of our actors are back. I do have some amazing news in that we have broken one record, which is I can see how many people are viewing each episode, but also how long everyone stays. And we've had the highest average of people sticking around and watching the entire play, which is really incredible. So the retention rate has beat any other reading that we've had so far. Well done. Before we get started on Act 2, which we're going to get started in a solid minute here, is I would like for everyone who, if you guys could remind your viewers one more time, if you're interested in letting them know that we're at intermission, or people who want to start over, they can start from the beginning. They can see it even though we've passed that part. They can rewind. So anyone who has missed it so far, I'm going to go ahead and do that on my end, and then we're going to get started. And I'm going to mute myself while I talk because I'm loud. Oh. All right, cool. Cool. All right. All righty. All right. Are we set? Rudy.
I'm
Rudy.
back. Yeah, I'm here.
All right, let's do this.
Is. The man, the myth. All right, let's roll.
Not a myth yet.
All right, Jane Eyre, Act 2. There's music, and the lights come up, and we hear a child crying, and we see lights on Helen, who's furiously rocking her doll, and Brocklehurst watches. Jane is revealed in a wedding gown in an isolated light.
I am slatternly. I seldom put and never keep things in order. I am careless, I forget rules. I sleep when I should learn my lessons. Shh.
I draw a picture. Thornfield was in ruins. I was carrying a child. It was strangling me. But I could not put it down for anything. Mr. Rochester had ridden away. There was someone else there, a woman. A woman dressed in white like a shroud. She wears my wedding veil.
Hush, Janet. It was just a dream.
He said it was a dream. But when I awoke, my veil was on the floor, torn to pieces.
Jane, is Thornfield Hall a ruin? Am I leaving you without a word? It was a dream.
Am I dreaming, Miss Eyre? Or did Mr. Rochester truly say he wishes to marry you? I feel so astonished. I hardly know what to say.
I told her simply to wish me happy.
Jane, this morning I wrote to my banker in London to send me certain jewels.
I told her not to speak as if I were a beauty.
You are a beauty in my eyes.
There is an old saying. All is not gold that glitters.
I will attire you in satin and lace.
I want no satin or jewels. I won't be kept by him.
Isn't she original?
I shall continue to act as Adele's governess. I shall learn my own board. I want nothing from him but...
But what?
His regard. And I will give him mine in return.
Impudence.
Miss Eyre, I fear there's something to be found here that neither you nor I expected.
Lights out on Mrs. Fairfax in Rochester, and we focus on Jane. There's organ music reminiscent of wedding music, and we begin.
I won't be kept by him.
Be on guard against him. Avoid his company, I swear.
If I could one day bring Mr. Rochester a fortune, however small, I could endure him supporting me now.
The Lord God has provided you with resources other than yourself.
A month ago, I wrote to my Uncle William to tell him I am to be married.
Or than creatures as feeble as yourself.
Today, I look in the mirror and see a figure so unlike myself that it seems almost the image of a stranger.
There's a transition and Rochester enters.
Jane, are you ready? Ah, the pride of my life, the desire of my eyes. Do you love me, Jane? Repeat it.
I do with all my heart.
Strange. Those words cause me pain here. You speak with such earnest, religious energy. It is too much as if some spirit were near me. But enough. It is time.
I require and charge you both, as ye will answer to the dreadful day of judgment, that if either of you know any impediment, why ye may not lawfully be joined together in matrimony, ye do now confess it. Wilt thou have this woman for thy wedded wife?
Marriage cannot go on. I declare the existence of an impediment.
Sir,
Proceed.
I cannot, sir, proceed until...
Proceed!
This marriage cannot go on.
Proceed!
What is the nature of this impediment? Perhaps it can be got over.
Mr. Rochester has a wife now living.
Prove it!
I have this. A license that states that on the 20th of October, 1830, Edward Fairfax Rochester married Bertha Antoinette Mayson in Spanish Town, Jamaica.
This proves Mr. Rochester once had a wife. It does not prove she is still alive.
She was 3 months ago. I saw her here, in this house. I am her brother.
Enough! All shall bolt out at once, like a bullet from a barrel. Wood, close your book. Shut up the church. There will be no wedding today. No, let us go up into that house instead and visit Mrs. Poole's patient, my wife.
There's a transition and enters Bertha, followed by Mrs. Fairfax in the attic of the mansion. Mrs. Fairfax speaks.
They're there now.
Ne me regarde pas.
No, there now. I won't.
Don't look at me, you creature. You. Don't.
You know this place, Mayson. She bit and stabbed you here. Good morning, Mrs. Poole. And how is your charge today?
We're tolerable, sir. I thank you. Rather snappish, but not outrageous. Oh, sir, she sees you. You'd better not stay.
She has no knife today, I suppose?
Oh, no, one never knows. She's very, very cunning, sir.
Rochester, and they struggle as he holds her.
This is my wife, sister to that resolute personage there. Cheer up, Dick. I'd sooner strike a woman than you. Comes from a mad family. Her mother was insane and a drunkard. My wife, the dutiful child that she is, copied her parent in both points. Such the sole conjugal embrace I am ever to know. Such are the endearments which are to solace me. And this is what I wished to have. Compare, gentlemen, that face with this mask, that form with this bulk. Then judge me, if you will. But remember, so shall you be judged. This girl who knew no more than you would of this disgusting secret. She thought all was fair and legal. Off with you now. I must shut up my prize.
Rochester takes Bertha off, assisted by Grace. All exit except for Jane, Mayson. Enters Helen.
Your uncle will be glad to hear that you had no part in this, Miss Eyre. If he is still living when I return to Jamaica.
My uncle?
Yes, William Eyre. Do you not remember?
Yes, my letter, yes.
I was with William when he received it. Your uncle was very ill, Miss Eyre, and so sent me in his place. I would desire you to accompany me back, were I not half certain he would be dead ere we reached him. But I do believe it best you stay in England until I can send you word. Goodbye, Miss Eyre. You will hear from me soon.
Mayson exits along with Jane. We see the lights up on Helen singing. During her song, Rochester enters and sits outside of Jane's room.
Why did they send me so far and so lonely, up where these moor spreads and grey rocks are piled? Men are hard-hearted and kind angels only watch o'er the steps of a poor orphan child. My feet they are sore and my limbs they're weary. Long is the way and the mountains are wild. Soon will the twilight close moonless and dreary over the path of the poor orphan child.
Jane enters. She's changed into her regular clothes.
You come out at last. Well, I have been waiting for you long and listening. Yet no one movement have I heard. 5 minutes more of that deathlike hush and I should have forced the lock. So you shunned me? You shut yourself up and grieve alone. You are passionate. I expected a scene of some kind. I was prepared for the hot rain of tears. Not a word of reproach? Nothing bitter? Jane, will you ever forgive me? You know I am a scoundrel, Jane.
Yes, sir.
Then tell me roundly. Don't spare me. Oh, I know you. You are thinking how to act. Talking, you consider, is of no use.
I do not wish to act against you.
Well, not in your sense of the word, but in mine you are scheming to destroy me. You intend to make yourself a complete stranger to me, to live under this roof only as Adele's governess, and if I ever say a friendly word to you, you will say, that man nearly made me his mistress. I must be ice and rock to him. And ice and rock you will become.
Adele must have a new governess, sir.
Oh, Adele will go to school. That is all settled. Jane, you shall not stay here, nor will I. All is prepared for prompt departure. Tomorrow you shall go. I have a place, a secure sanctuary. Jane, will you hear reason? Because if you don't, I'll try violence.
Sit down. I'll talk to you as long as you like.
Oh, Jane, I cannot endure it. Hush now. It is because I love you too well. You don't love me then? It was only my rank you valued.
I do love you, more than ever. But this is the last time I must express it.
The last time? Do you think you can live with me and always be cold and distant?
No, sir, I'm certain I could not. And therefore I must leave you.
For how long, Jane? For a few minutes while you smooth your...
I must part with you for my whole life. I must begin a new existence.
Of course. I told you you should. You shall go to a place I have in the south of France. Jane, I am not long enduring. I am not cool and dispassionate. You forget that!
God help me.
I am a fool. She must see that I am not married, but I do not tell her why. Jane, listen. Did you ever know I was a younger son? That my father and elder brother were avaricious men who would not give me my fair share of the estate?
No.
They were proud too, the devil take them. So I was to make a wealthy marriage. My father had an old acquaintance, a Mr. Mayson, a rich Jamaican merchant who had a daughter who was the boast of Spanish Town for her beauty. I was married before I knew where I was. Oh, I have no respect for myself when I think of that act. I have never loved. I never esteemed. I did not even know her. I was told her mother was dead. After the marriage, I learned my mistake. She was only mad, as my father and brother both well knew. Jane, I lived with that woman upstairs for 4 years, endured all the agonies of being bound to a wife, both intemperate and unchaste. And in those 4 years, both my father and brother died. Think on it. I was rich enough now, but poor, so poor, because the doctors had discovered that my wife was mad, and I therefore could not rid myself of her by any legal proceedings. You don't like my narrative?
I pity you. I do pity you.
One night, I was awakened by her yells. She had, of course, been shut up. It was a fiery West Indian night. The air was like sulfur. This life, I thought, is hell. I took a revolver up in my hand. Then suddenly the weather broke. The air grew pure. And I fixed a resolution. I would take the mad woman with me to England. I would place her in safety and comfort and leave her. I would travel the world and form what tie I wished.
You could not marry, sir.
I determined I could and I should. It was not my original intention to deceive. I meant to tell my tale plainly. But now you see how the case stands, don't you? After a life of unutterable misery, I have for the first time found what I can truly love. I have found you. You are my sympathy, my better self, Jane. Jane, just give me your promise. Say, Mr. Rochester, I will be yours.
Mr. Rochester, I will not be yours.
Jane, do you mean to go one way in the world and let me go another?
I do.
And now?
I do.
Oh, Jane, this is wicked. It would not be wicked to love me.
It would be to obey you.
But you would injure no one. You have neither relatives nor friends to offend.
The more solitary, the more friendless I am, the more I will respect myself. I will hold to the principles received by me when I was sane and not mad as I am now. Laws and principles are not for times when there is no temptation they are for now. If at my individual convenience I might break them, what would be their worth? They have worth. So I have always believed. And if I cannot believe it now, it is because I am insane, quite insane. They are all I have at this hour to stand by.
Never was anything at once so frail and so indomitable. I could break her in two, but what good would it do me? Whatever I do with the cage, I cannot get at the spirit. Oh, Jane, come with me.
I am going, sir.
You will not stay? My deep love, my frantic prayer are nothing to you.
I am going.
Withdraw then. I consent. Go back to your room and think over all I have said. And Jane, cast a glance on my sufferings. Think of me.
God bless you, my dear master. God keep you from harm and wrong and reward you well for the past kindness to me.
There's a transition and Jane is alone. She's joined by Brocklehurst and Helen.
I know what I have to do. I stick the key at the side door in the kitchen. I order the key and lock. I get some water, some bread, and perhaps I shall have to walk far. All this I do without one sound. A mile off lies a road which I have never travelled. Thither I bend my steps. He will send for me in the morning. I will be gone. He will have me sought for, it will be in vain. May you never feel what I feel. May you never appeal to heaven in prayer so hopeless. May you never be the instrument of evil to that which you love wholly.
A howling wind, a storm is in full force. Jane and the spirits transition through the storm. They reach a doorway and Jane stops and knocks.
Do you know of any place in the neighbourhood where a servant is wanted? I left my bag on the coach and now I must.
Nay, there's no such need, oh such in this town.
What do people do for work here?
Most serve at the needle factory up a ways, but it's men's work.
And what do the women do?
Some does one thing, some does another. Po folk mun get on as they can. The door slams shut and Jane continues to walk. The spirits are weak and cling to her for support. They reach another door and Jane stops. There's amplified knocking.
Will you give me a roll for this handkerchief?
Nay, I never sell stuff in that way.
Will you take my gloves?
How would I know where you got them from? The door is slammed shut.
Please, please, God help me.
Jane, your little feet are bare. You are cold, let me warm you.
Helen, a memory of Helen, embraces Jane, then collapses, and Jane lifts Helen and carries her forward, followed by Brocklehurst crawling behind. An amplified knocking, and enters Hannah.
Who's that? What do you want?
I want night shelter and a morsel of bread to eat.
I'll give you a piece of bread, but we cannot take in a vagrant.
I left my bag on the coach, a mistake, you see. I've been walking for days, there is no work. If you turn me away, what shall I do?
Here's a penny, now go.
Shut the door for God's sake.
The rain is driving in.
Then I must die if I am turned away.
Not you. I'm feared you have ill plans that bring about folks' houses at this time of night. If you have any followers, housebreakers and such, anywhere near, tell them we have gentlemen and dogs and guns.
You must be on guard against her. Avoid her company, shut her out from your converse. For this child, this girl.
You're solitary. The more friendless I am, the more I will respect myself.
This child, I swear.
I will respect myself.
Brocklehurst sinks back and Jane moves away from him and his memory, and then collapses. Enters St. John.
I can but die.
All men must die, or all are not condemned to die of cold and want.
He carries Jane. Helen follows to another part of the stage. Brocklehurst cannot follow them. He will not see him again. The final light shines down on Brocklehurst, and there's a transition to Jane in bed. St. John, Diana, Mary, and Hannah watch her anxiously.
Hannah, over here. Please help me put that there. Hurry, hurry, bring her in, St. John. She looks so pale.
She is famished, I think. Hannah, get some bread and some milk, if you please.
All this fuss over a beggar woman, and I don't know what all.
It's very well you took her in, St. John.
She's gone through strange hardships. She's gone through strange hardships, no doubt.
She's not an educated person, I think. Her clothes are muddy, but very, very fine.
Look, she is waking.
Can you speak? Hannah, bring me the plate. Here, try to drink.
No, not too much at first. Try if she can speak now. Ask her name.
My name is Jane Elliot.
Where do you live? Where are your friends?
Can we send for anyone you know? What has happened to you, my dear?
I can tell you nothing.
But what then do you expect us to do for you?
Nothing.
Do you mean that we have now given you what aid you require? That we may dismiss you back into the night?
Do with me and for me as you like. But excuse me from talking, my breath is short.
Enough. I'll let her lay here present. In 10 minutes more, give her the rest of the milk and the bread.
To speak truth, St. John, my heart rather warms to her. I wish we may be able to benefit her permanently.
That is hardly likely. You will find she is some young lady who has had a misunderstanding with her friends. She looks sensible, but not all that handsome.
She is so ill, St. John. And as to her face, I rather like it.
They exit. There's a transition as Hannah speaks. The rivers gather, reading a letter in silence.
On the third day was better. I could speak and move. On the fourth, I ventured downstairs to thank my benefactors. From Hannah, I had found out much about them.
They're brothers and sisters to be so. The mother's been resting in a grave, these last 10 years.
Their father had died as well.
Of a stroke, just 3 weeks ago. He left him destitute. Oh, poor lambs, on account of his lending a deal of money to a man that turned bankrupt.
So the house was to be sold.
Miss Mary and Miss Diana are going off to become governesses. And Mr. St. John? Oh, it hurts my heart sore to have him be going so far from us. He's leaving soon from India to do the Lord's work. A missionary he's to be.
Well, that's that then.
Jane enters into the river's grouping. They hastily put away the letter.
Why, you've come downstairs. You should have waited for my leave.
I'm sorry. Have I disturbed you? I will go.
No, it's nothing. Only a letter. No consequence. Are you sure you're well enough to get out of bed?
You still look so pale. How do you feel?
Very well.
Hannah tells us you've been recovering and have a good appetite.
I trust I shall not eat long at your expense.
No. When you have indicated to us the residence of your friends, we can write to them and you may be restored to home.
The name of the place where and the person with whom I lived is my secret, sir.
Which you have, in my opinion, a right to keep, both from St. John and every other questioner.
Yet if I know nothing of you or your history, I cannot help you.
Don't make her talk any more now, St. John. Miss Elliot, come sit by me. Miss Elliot.
Is your name really Jane Elliot?
No.
You won't tell us your real name.
I fear discovery above all things. Show me how to work. That is all I ask. But till then, allow me to stay here. I dread.
You shall stay here.
You shall.
My sisters, I see, have a pleasure in keeping you.
Hannah enters.
Begging your pardon, but Miss Diana, the kitchen's in an uproar, and the girl's nowhere to be found.
Oh dear, she has a toothache. And I sent her to the surgeon.
Never mind, Hannah, we're coming. Ugh.
Hannah, Diana, and Mary exit.
You will excuse me, Mr. Rufus. I feel I disturbed you earlier. I should.
Nothing. A letter from a lawyer, merely. My uncle is recently dead. This missive informs us that he has left his property to another. It is of no consequence. He had a right to do as he pleased.
I am sorry. I should go and help your sisters. I am stronger now and must be doing something to earn my keep.
Miss Elliot,
Yes?
when you spoke earlier, I thought of something, a situation that, but perhaps it would not do.
If you have some employment for me, speak.
I can see your society has been amongst the educated. You may think that the work that I offer is degrading, but I consider that no service degrades which can better our race.
Well, proceed.
This town, when I came to it 2 years ago, had no school. The children of the poor were excluded from every hope of progress, so I established a school for boys. I mean now to open one for girls. Its mistress will have a salary of £30 per year.
Mr. Rivers, I accept your proposal with all my heart.
You comprehend me? Your scholars will be poor girls. What will you do with your accomplishments?
They will keep. Mr. Rivers, I do truly thank you.
You will not stay here long.
Indeed. I cannot think what makes you say so.
I read it in your eyes. In your nature as an alloy as detrimental to repose as that in mine.
I am not ambitious.
Makes you speak of ambition. I know I am ambitious, but how did you find it out?
I was speaking of myself.
Well, if you have no ambition, you are instead.
What?
I was going to say impassioned, but you might have misunderstood and been displeased. I meant human affections have a most powerful hold upon you. You cannot long be content to pass your leisure in solitude, any more than I could be content to live here, pent in with mountains, waiting for the destiny my master has called me into.
Which is?
The greatest to which man can aspire. The advancement of God's kingdom on earth.
There's a transition and the lights go down on St. John. We focus on Jane.
Diana teaches me German. I like to learn from her. Mary is gentle and good. As to Mr. St. John, I hear him preach. The heart is thrilled, the mind astonished. Yet throughout there is a strange bitterness. And when he is done, instead of feeling enlightened by his discourse, I experience an inexpressible sadness. St. John Rivers has not yet found that peace of God which passeth all understanding. He has no more found it than I have with my concealed and racking regrets.
You think too much of the love of human beings, Jane.
I rush into strange dreams at night. I still again and again meet Mr. Rochester.
You are too impulsive, too vehement.
He did love me. No one will ever love me again so. I will never again know the sweet homage given to beauty, youth, and grace, for to no one else will I ever seem to possess those charms. But where am I wandering? Is it better to be a slave in a fool's paradise, fevered with delusive bliss one hour, suffocating with the bitterest shame the next? Or to be village schoolmistress, free and honest? I was right. God directed me to the right choice.
There's a sound effect of a storm and Jane exits, followed by Helen. There's a transition and St. John enters. He knocks, trying to be heard above the storm.
Miss Elliot! Are you there, Miss Elliot?
Jane enters, who admits St. John.
The storm is terrible. I've had hard work to get here, I assure you.
But why are you come?
Rather an inhospitable question to put to a visitor, but since you asked it, I answer simply to have a little talk with you. May I be seated?
Of course.
Your school, satisfactory?
Yes?
And I have observed that my sisters have grown quite fond of you.
Yes. It is a great sadness to me that they must so soon leave. Has there been a change in your own arrangements? Is that why you are come? Are you summoned to India sooner than you expected?
No. Such chance is too good to befall me. I have come, Miss Elliot, to tell you a story, though I must warn you that it may sound somewhat hackneyed to your ears. 20 years ago, a poor curate married a rich man's daughter. Her family disowned her, and before 2 years had passed, the rash pair were both dead, leaving behind a little daughter who was reared by an aunt called Mrs. Reed of Gateshead. Do you hear a noise? To proceed, Mrs. Reed kept the orphan 10 years, and at the end of that time transferred it to Lowood School, which was then under the direction of Mr. Brocklehurst. The pupils were not well treated. Contagion took over the school. Many students died. Brocklehurst was disgraced. It was thought that the heroine of my tale died too, but that was not the case. She survived, became a teacher, then graduated to the post of governess in the house of a certain Mr. Rochester, who it seemed wished to marry the young woman, but at the very altar it was discovered that he had a wife yet alive. And as for the governess, she vanished. No one knows when, where, or how. I myself have received a letter from Mr. Briggs, a solicitor who was eager to find this young woman. Is it not an odd tale?
Did he write to Mr. Rochester?
I know nothing of Mr. Rochester. Briggs wrote of a Jane Eyre. Do you own this name? Then perhaps you will wish to know why he wrote of you.
Why did he then?
He wrote to tell you that your uncle, William Eyre of Jamaica, is dead, and that he has left you all his property and that you are now rich. Merely that.
I? Rich?
£20,000, I think they say. But what is that?
£20,000?
You had committed a murder and I told you your crime was discovered, you could scarcely look more aghast. Well, that is what I came to say, Miss Eyre. Now I must leave you. Good night.
Wait. It puzzles me why Mr. Briggs wrote to you about me.
Well, I'm a clergyman. The clergy are often appealed to about odd matters.
That does not satisfy me.
Another time.
No, tonight.
Well, you must know someday. Your name is Jane Eyre.
Yes, yes, we have settled that already.
My mother's name was Eyre.
But
She had two brothers. One, a clergyman who married your mother. The other, a Mr. William Eyre, merchant in Jamaica, who died but a month ago. You were there when we received word of Uncle William's will. Do you remember that day? We learned that he had left his property to an orphan niece, overlooking us in consequence of a quarrel between him and my father. Briggs wrote me again in a few weeks to say that the heiress was lost and asked if I knew anything of her. You know the rest.
But wait! You three, then, are my cousins.
We are cousins, yes.
Oh, I am glad.
You were serious when I told you you had got a fortune and now for a moment of no moments you are excited.
What do you mean? It may be of no moment to you. You have sisters and don't care for a cousin. But I had nobody. And now have three relations, or two if you don't want to be counted. I will tell Diane and Mary tomorrow. With £5,000 each, they should do very well.
You are confused. I have been too abrupt.
And what effect would £5,000 have on you? Would it induce you to stay in England and settle like an ordinary mortal?
Miss Eyre.
£20,000 divided equally between us four will give us £5,000 each. I will tell you it would oppress me to have £20,000, which, moreover, could never be mine in justice.
Your future husband would not agree.
Nonsense. I shall never marry. I never had a home. I never had brothers and sisters. I must and will have them now. Say you will be my brother St. John.
He takes her hand and there's a transition. Diana and Mary enter. and they're giddy with happiness.
Oh, Jane, my dear sister.
The house? Jane, you've spent far too much money fixing it up.
Carpet, draperies, new furniture. Really, there's no need.
Piano?
A piano. Shocking. I wonder you have any inheritance left. You've gone to too much trouble.
Indeed, I have not.
And what do you think, St. John?
I trust that when the first flush of vivacity is over, she will look a little higher than domestic endearments and household joys.
Shame on you.
I think you're almost wicked to talk so. I'm disposed to be content as a queen, and you try to stir me up to restlessness.
So that you will turn to profit the towns which God has committed to your keeping. You should not cling so tenaciously to ties of the flesh, Jane. Save your constancy and adhere for an adequate cause.
I feel I have adequate cause to be happy, and I will be happy.
Indeed, I hope you shall. Now I must be at my books. Good night.
St. John, Jane is your sister too, but you don't treat her as such. You should give her a kiss as well.
Kisses Jane gravely and then exits.
He does not like our rebels.
It is not in his character, Jane.
His plans have not changed.
Oh, Jane, there is nothing you or I could do to turn St. John from his purpose. Indeed, he cannot understand why we would not wish to make that sacrifice as well.
There's a transition and Diana and Mary exit. There's a light on St. John, though he is not in the scene with Jane, who stands with Helen, also in an isolated light.
Jane,
Yes, St. John.
there is sickness in the village. Come with me on my visit.
It is a bitter night.
You can bear a mountain blast or a few flakes of snow as well as any of us.
And so I go.
Jane, I want you to give up German and learn Hindustani.
You're not in earnest.
It will help me in my own studies to have a pupil.
And so I learn.
Jane, what are you doing sitting there by the fire?
Diana says I do not look well and that I should.
Sorry. Nonsense. What you want is employment, a purpose, some meaningful labor.
And so I work. I do not think of resisting him. I cannot resist him.
Jane, I wish to speak with you for a moment. You know I sail to India on the 20th of June.
God will protect you. You've undertaken his work.
Yes, there is my glory and joy. I'm the servant of an infallible master. It seems strange to me that all around me do not burn to enlist under that same banner.
They are few in number and difficult to discover.
You say truly, but when found, is it not right to stir them up? To show them what their gifts are and why they were given? To offer them direct from God a place in his ranks of his chosen?
If they are right for the task, will not their own heart say so?
And what does your heart say?
What? My heart is mute.
Then I must speak for it. Jane, come with me to India. Come as my fellow laborer and wife.
Oh, St. John.
I've watched you ever since we first met. I have proved you in that time by many tests. In the village school, I found you could perform well labor uncongenial to your inclinations. When I learned of your inheritance, I saw money had no power over you. In the unflagging energy and unshaken temper with which you have done all I asked, I see in you a soul that revels in the flame of sacrifice. Jane, you are faithful, constant, and courageous, very gentle, very heroic.
I'm not fit.
Who was that? Who that was ever truly called believed himself to worthy of the summons? Don't mistrust yourself. I trust you unreservedly.
I do not have your powers. It is folly for the weak to march with the strong.
Your assistance will be to me invaluable. You will be my true companion, my helpmate. Jane, God and nature intended you for a missionary's wife. It is not personal, but mental endowments that have been given to you. You are formed for labor, not for love. I claim you not for my pleasure, but for my sovereign service.
I know I must seek another interest in life to replace the one I've lost. There is nothing so absurd, so weak as to drag on from day to day, as if I were waiting for some impossible change in circumstances. But, St. John, I am ready to go to India, if I can go free.
Your answer is not clear.
I will not marry you.
Impossible. Either our union must be consecrated by marriage, or it cannot exist.
I regard you as a brother. You regard me as a sister, so let us continue.
I want a wife, a helpmate I can influence efficiently in life and retain absolutely until death.
Then seek one elsewhere than me, St. John. Seek one fitted to your purpose.
Fitted to God's purpose, you mean? Give your heart to God, Jane. He demands it of you.
I will give my heart to God. You do not want it. I repeat, I freely consent to go with you as your fellow missionary, but not as your wife.
How can I take with me to India a young woman unless she is married to me? How can we be forever together, sometimes in solitude, and be unwed? You have a man's vigorous brain, but a woman's heart. It would not do. And undoubtedly enough of love would follow upon marriage to render the union right, even in your eyes.
I scorn your idea of love, and I scorn when you offer it.
It is not me you deny, Jane, but God.
There's a separate light on Jane.
I can do what he wants. I am forced to see it. If I go to India, I will make the sacrifice absolutely. I can work as hard as he can, with as little grudging. I can work to death.
God waits only for death to crown us with the full reward.
He will never love me, but he shall approve of me. Leaving England, I leave nothing. Mr. Rochester is not here. And if he were, what can that ever be to me?
There will come a time when you throw off these mortal passions.
My business is to live without him now.
Do not despair. Life is soon over, and death is so certain an entrance to happiness.
Is not the occupation St. John offers me truly the most glorious God can assign?
There's a light on St. John, who is ringed with followers, and it's as if he was at the pulpit.
He that overcometh shall inherit all things. I will be his God, and he shall be my son.
I watch him standing there,
I am the resurrection and the life.
and I fancy myself his wife.
I will lift you up into the city of the Lord, which is lit by neither sun nor moon.
Always changing in a sudden sweep.
For in that place the glory of God shines forever.
Dim rooms filled with visions.
I live in calm, looking to the end.
Were I but convinced that it was God's will I should marry you, I could vow to marry you here and now. Come afterwards what would.
My prayers are answered.
You hear Rochester's voice.
Jane.
Oh, my God.
Jane. Jane.
What do you see?
Can you not hear it?
There is nothing there.
Think too much of the love of human beings, Jane.
No. No.
Jane. Jane. Jane.
Jane.
I am coming, Mr. Rochester. Wait for me. Oh God, where are you?
Jane breaks free from Helen, and there's a crescendo as Helen stands left behind. We never see her again. There's a small spotlight on Jane, which grows as she goes on.
Here an illustration. A lover finds his mistress asleep. Wishing to catch a glimpse of her fair face without waking her, he steals softly over the grass, careful to make no sound. He bends over her, bends lower. Now his eyes anticipate the vision of beauty. But look, he starts. He takes her in his arms, calls aloud a name, gazes at her wildly. He thought his love slept sweetly. He finds that she is stone dead. I had expected to see Thornfield Hall.
We see the ruin of Thornfield, which has been burned to the ground.
I found instead a blackened ruin. The grounds were trodden and waste. The portal was void. The front was as I'd once seen it in a dream. A shell-like wall, no roof, no battlements, no chimneys. All had crashed in.
The porter enters.
Who was there?
I'm sorry, ma'am. I just came to look about the place. I am so sorry.
Excuse me, I did not expect to see anyone.
Yeah.
You.
I just came to look about the place. I was late for Rochester's porter.
So late? Is he dead?
I mean, the present gentleman. Mr. Edwards is his father.
What happened to you?
There was a terrible fight. It broke out in the middle of the night. It was a horrible thing. I saw it myself.
How?
But there was a lady, ma'am, a lunatic kept in the house, cunning as a witch she was. And that night, she set fire to the Thornfield. Climbed up to the roof, she did. I never forgot this sight. A tall woman with her hair streaming out against the flames. Mr. Rochester went after her. I heard him call her name, and she yelled and gave a spring, and the next minute, she lay smashed on the pavement.
Good God.
Yes. And poor Mr. Edwards.
But you said he was alive?
It was all his own courage in a way, ma'am. He wouldn't leave the house till everyone else was out of before him. As he finally came down the staircase, there was a great crash. Everything fell. He was taken out from under the ruins alive, but sadly hurt. One eye was knocked out, miss, and one hand was so crushed that the surgeons had to amputate it directly. He is now helpless indeed, blind and crippled.
Where is he? Where does he live?
At Ferdinand, a manor house about 30 miles off, almost deserted. Won't have anyone else but old John and Mary to attend him.
You must show me the way. And if the postboys can drive me to Ferdinand before dark this day, I'll pay you all handsomely.
There's a transition and the lights are up on Rochester, who is seated in a wheelchair. Enters Jane with a glass.
Give me the water, Mary. This is you, Mary, is it not?
Mary is in the kitchen.
Who is that? Answer me.
Will you have a little more water, sir? I split half of what was in the glass.
Good God. What delusion has come over me?
No delusion, sir. I'm come back.
And is it only a voice? Oh, I cannot see, but I must feel, or my heart will stop. Her fingers. Her small, slight fingers. If so, there must be more of her. This is her shape. Her size.
And this is her voice. God bless you, sir. I am glad to be so near you again.
Jane Eyre. It is a dream. Such dreams as I had at night when I kissed her. As thus. And it felt that she loved me and would never leave. You will fly too, but kiss me before you go. Embrace me, Jane.
There, sir, and there. You see, I'm no dream.
You are an altogether a human being? You are certain of that?
I conscientiously believe so, Mr. Rochester. In fact, I am an independent woman now.
Independent? What do you mean?
My uncle in Jamaica is dead, and he left me £5,000.
Ah, this is real. I should never dream that. What, Janet, are you rich?
Quite rich, sir. If you won't let me live with you, I can build a house of my own. I will be your neighbor, your nurse. I will read to you, walk with you, wait on you, be eyes and hands to you.
But you cannot always be my nurse, Janet. You are young. You must marry one day.
I don't care about being married.
Well, you should care, Janet. If I were what I once was, I would try to make you care, but a sightless block!
You know, I find you rather alarming, sir. I fear you are becoming metamorphosed into a lion or something of that sort. Your hair reminds me of eagle feathers. Whether your nails are grown like birds' claws or not, I have not yet noticed.
On this arm, I have neither hands nor nails. A ghastly sight, don't you think, Jane?
It is a pity to see it, and a pity to see your eyes. The worst of it is, one is in danger of making too much of you for it.
Am I hideous, Jane?
Very. You always were, you know.
The wickedness has not been taken out of you wherever you have been.
Yet I have been with good people, far better than you, possessed of ideas and views you'd never entertained in life.
Who the deuce have you been with?
A clergyman and his two sisters, who were very good to me and gave me means to make my living.
A clergyman? A respectable, well-conducted man of 50, I suppose?
Rather younger, sir. 29, I should think.
Indeed. And did you like him?
I liked him very much.
But his appearance, he is an awkward sort of man, half strangled, with his white neckcloth, huh?
Most would find St. John Rivers very handsome, I think so.
Damn him. Did you like him, Jane?
Yes, but you asked me that before.
And he, I suppose, so young and handsome and talented. I suppose he was betrothed to some local beauty.
No, indeed, sir. In fact, he asked me to marry him.
Miss Eyre, why do you remain so pertinaciously perched on my knee?
Because I'm comfortable here.
No, you are not, Jane. Go and marry the husband you have chosen, this St. John Rivers.
He is not my husband, nor will ever be. For he does not love me, nor I him. Sir, all my heart is yours. It belongs to you, and with you it would remain, were fate to exile the rest of me from your presence forever.
But I want more than your heart, Jane. I want a wife.
Do you, sir?
Is this unwelcome news?
That depends on your choice.
Which you shall make for me, Jane.
Choose then, sir. Her who loves you best.
I will at least choose her I love best. Jane, will you marry me?
Yes, sir.
They kiss.
Jane, you think me, I dare say, an irreligious dog, but of late, only of very late, I have begun to pray. Brief prayers, but sincere. And Jane, it was Monday last. I was in a singular mood. Oh, how I longed for thee, Janet. I prayed to God that I might see you once again. I prayed with the only words I could. Jane, Jane, Jane.
Did you speak those words aloud?
I did. But what followed was the strangest point. I heard then a voice. I cannot tell whence the voice came, but I know whose voice it was, replied, I am coming. Wait for me. And a moment later, where are you? Jane, those were your accents. As certain as I live, you cannot now wonder that I had difficulty in believing that you any other than a vision. Now, I thank God. I know it to be otherwise. Yes, I thank God that in the midst of judgment, there is also mercy.
And so we entered the wood and found our way home again.
And thus ends Jane Eyre. Thank you all very, very much. Those who have watched, just remember one more chance to go to actingforacause.org and support our amazing cause. That's what brought us all here today. If you also want to tune in to future readings, Next week, we are doing Twelfth Night by William Shakespeare. We already have some of our cast confirmed. It's very exciting, and I'll be announcing that on social media, so you can follow Acting for a Cause. There's two, we have like 2 usernames, but the primary is Acting with the number 4 a Cause on Instagram. I post daily updates at Professor Brando. I'm going to try to actually move it more towards that other account, but I'm still a little bit used to that routine. And again, thank you all so much to our actors. I will be sending you all individual messages for you. You were so incredible, incredible, incredible. Thank you for lending your talent to this beautiful piece of work. I also want to thank Christina Calvert, who's the adapter, truly wonderful adapter, who also did the adaptation for Pride and Prejudice. It's also local to Chicago, where I'm from. And just one more thank you to the most important component of all of this, which was the audience. Thank you so, so much, everyone.